Noble Gold. Real assets. Real value. Your wealth protected.
Well, hi guys. I've got Colin Plume here with me from Noble Gold. And this is very important for everyone today because at the moment we're living in a world where the banks are about to collapse. The stock market is about to collapse. And it's important that you look after what you have. And I've recommended, and so has Colin, that gold and silver over history has always been a safe place. So good morning for me. Good evening for you, Colin. Great to see you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, Charlie. Thank you. Yeah, nice to be on with you, and we're across the pond.
Yeah,
which is always good and fun, and yeah, I mean it's been quite an interesting year. I think it was a big change with the new President Trump coming in. I think a lot of people didn't know what was going to happen with gold and silver or the stock market, and but the hedge funds knew and the institutions knew because within 3 days of President Trump being elected, they've been buying the ETF version of gold like never before. And a lot of it has to do with what I believe is President Trump's belief about how to grow the economy is through he's an aggressive, heavy growth strategy president. He's not a lay back and let things, he's not a malaise Biden type president. So with that type of strategy, you're going to spend money. You're going to try to grow the economy through different measures. And the hedge funds were buying tremendous amounts of gold in November, December, January. And obviously that with everything that happened in the economy and the tariffs created this excitement into gold and also silver, which we can talk about also. But yeah, I think it was like, it feels like longer than it has. It's basically a year, but it feels like it's been longer than, I don't know how you feel. It feels like it's been longer than a year, but it's been a quite exciting year in the metals business.
It is. And in uncertain times, people look for what's going to be stable. And right now, I've told my audience that get your money out of the bank. You only have to look at Vietnam. 86 million bank accounts taken away, unless they were prepared to have digital ID. It disappeared. The money disappeared. I had a lady, an insider, the other day contact me, say, Charlie, I went to my bank in America. I wanted 15,000 out to buy gold. They said no. I've recommended people take their money from the bank and put it into gold and silver. And I think one of the important things that you and I spoke about earlier is if you're going to put money into gold or silver, that you put it somewhere that's trustworthy. Now, correct. Colin, you have safety deposits that are not in the bank, but in correct. A safe place.
Yeah, exactly. So, we can obviously ship to people get it to your doorstep. So that's one option. And a lot of people like that too. They like to hold it or put it in their gun safe. And it's a popular option. And I understand why it is. We also do for IRAs or for direct storage. We can store, we have 2 locations, and one is in Delaware and one is outside of Dallas. And I was actually just there last week. I brought the whole team, the whole customer service team out to the facility, and we all did an audit together. We pulled out a few hundred accounts, and we counted, the gold and silver, and took the receipt and matched it up. And it's a segregated storage facility, and it's owned by a private company. It's not owned by the government. So all of these things I've vetted as I've grown in this business. I've actually been in precious metals for 17 years, and I've seen some depositories that are commingled not have enough gold and silver or get in trouble or have problems. And you've seen them. There's been a few in Delaware and other places that have run into problems. When you do segregated storage and you have a very concise system, which IDS does, I mean, they're constantly doing audits. I just did an audit of my account of some of them. They're doing it daily. So it is important. So it's a small thing, but it's a big thing, which I think that when you're investing, it's really important. And to further your point about the banks, a lot of times people say, well, I'll just store in a safety deposit box. The problem is that there's no insurance in any safety deposit box. It actually specifically says in the agreements when you sign for a safety deposit box that they tell you to not put cash and to not put gold and silver in there, and that there's no coverage. So it's not a safe place. So, the banks are an interesting dynamic today in that they have laws where they can bail-in laws where they can take your money, if they have problems. So they can take your money just in a savings account. They can also take it if it's, let's say it gets stolen in a safety deposit box or something happens, they have no response. So they really have no responsibility for your funds anymore. And Charlie, I've had clients too that have gone to the bank and tried to wire money to us from time to time. And the bank, sometimes you get a small bank and they've tried to stop them or they've tried to talk them out of that. And I've had problems where certain banks said, well, I don't know these guys. And I mean, we've been in business this company's been in business for over a decade. We've sold $3 billion in gold and silver. We have an impeccable track record. It really has nothing to do with us. It really, what it comes down to is that bank does not have a lot of liquid assets, and they're trying to hold on to those assets in any way that they can. And so they'll tell somebody, like, don't send it there and scare them. But eventually what ends up happening is, like you can imagine, it really just pisses them off. And then they want to do it more. And I've actually had, more often than not, what's happened in my career is like someone says, oh, I'm going to send you $50,000. And they go to the bank and the banker tries to talk them out of it. And next thing you know, they're sending me $1 million or $100,000 or more, maybe not $1 million, but they're sending more because it creates this level of distrust that, like, if the banker says that I can't do it, why? Like, what's happening? And I think that's a big red flag for anyone that a bank would tell you not to do. I mean, it'd be one thing if they told you to avoid some scam. I mean, but this is gold and silver. It's been in the Bible. It's 5,000 years. I mean, and the track record the last 5 years, I mean, we've been talking about it, since COVID. I mean, gold and silver have just absolutely skyrocketed. And it's done the thing that everybody needs it to do. Gold is been around and done the thing for over hundreds of years. Even in the last 100 years, if you think about a 1 ounce gold piece that was in circulation that people had that was $20, it did the same thing 100 years ago that it does today. And that you could go to the store 100 years ago and you could have taken your wife to dinner and you could have bought groceries and with $20. That's how much $20 had a lot of value 100 years ago. Today, that same $20 gold piece, which is 1 ounce of gold, could cover a lot of mortgages in this country, could cover food. It does the same. It can do the same thing 100 years ago that it did today, which is it keeps up with your cost of living, and it's a protection against the government and their overspending. And really, that's why it's done so well since COVID, because we've spent so much money trying to do whatever we've been trying to do. We put ourselves in so much financial turmoil that gold has just really protected us from that. And that's what your clients and the people you've talked to have been feeling. They feel protected because they bought gold and they continue to buy gold, and they'll be protected against the next thing that the government throws at us, which there's something around the corner that's going to happen soon. Again, I mean, it's never ending.
It's also very, very important on our journey as we move towards digital currency, because what gold and silver do is teach you to be responsible.
Right.
Because you are responsible for your gold and silver.
Right.
This is all part of this journey. For years and years and years, we've allowed the banks to take that responsibility, and they've not been trustworthy.
Right.
So as part of the education, you learn to be responsible for your gold and silver. I've learned that I have a small amount of physical gold. There's no point, Charlie, having £1 million worth of gold at your house, because somebody's going to turn up with a lot of weapons because it's worth stealing. But enough to that. The way I look at it, Colin, is that if I've got enough to last me for 6 months, if everything went wrong in the world, if the banks went down, the power went down, the shops went down, have I got enough to survive
Right.
for a period of time?
Right.
And the rest of it, I have in a storage facility that is protected, insured, audited, and allocated.
Correct.
That was important to me, and that's why I was in contact with you to make sure all these were in place. And very important for my audience is
Yes.
Colin is the CEO. He's not some bloke who just works for Noble Gold.
Right.
He is the chief executive officer who's putting his face and his name out to the public so the public can see who Colin is. You can
Right.
do your research. He's got a good track record, 17 years. It's there for you to see. It's nothing hidden. The gold is either in Delaware or in Texas.
Right.
It's Colin has been there himself this week to check, and that's important.
Yeah, and I gained a lot of weight in Texas too, eating that barbecue. But that's another story altogether. I mean, man, that you can't have a bad meal in that city.
Mm-hmm.
I think what's important, Charlie, is also as someone that I've been in other industries before I got in precious metal. I was in commercial real estate. I was in the insurance business, and the thing when I got back into precious metal 17 years ago, because as a kid, I collected coins, silver coins, and I inherited some silver coins from my grandfather. But I've become, a real historian in precious metals and in money. And that's really, I think, the thing I've been the most interested in since I've got into this business. And one thing to keep in mind is the thing that you said earlier about, being responsible, being financially responsible. And if you think about it, the reason that we got off the gold standard in 1971 is really because our country became financially irresponsible. Mm-hmm. That's really what happened. That Nixon, countries were calling in contracts for gold in 1970, and we didn't have enough. Mm-hmm. We had overspent. Mm-hmm. So going off the gold standard in 1971 wasn't this idea of this free market and doing all these things. We had spent too much money. Mm-hmm. And if you really look at the dynamics, the country was the best it ever was until 1971. Yeah. The most wealth for the middle and upper middle class, I would say, was until 1971. And it's because we had this way to protect ourselves from the government and the overspending. Mm-hmm. And once we got rid of that, we became this credit card debt society. Mm-hmm. And so if you think about it, I always look at like going back to the fundamentals. Mm-hmm. The fundamentals of gold, one of the things that people should keep in mind is that it's the one asset you own by yourself and has no debt. Mm-hmm. That is extremely important because as we saw in the last 3 or 4 years, 5 years, everybody, love, and I love real estate too, and I'm a big believer. But the one thing is the real estate market has been built up because of cheap money. Mm-hmm. Once they pulled interest rates and they made them more real, and I would even argue they're still lower than they probably should be. Mm-hmm. But once they put them back to normal, mm-hmm. real estate suffered. Mm-hmm. It wasn't the incredible asset that everybody thought, and even though I own it and other people, and it's done okay, it's not going to have that kind of growth unless there's cheap money. Now, will we get back to that cheap money? I don't know. I mean, there's talk about this 50-year mortgage, which I don't know if you heard this, that they're floating this idea around of a 50-year mortgage, which is mind-blowing to me because I don't know how the banks are going to figure out how to give somebody a 50-year mortgage, right? Like, how do you figure out what somebody's income is going to be 40 years from now? I think there's some math. Maybe people smarter than me will have to figure that out. But the point is, the gold and silver and platinum, palladium that you own will be truly the only asset you own by yourself, and there's no counterparty risk. Mm-hmm. Everything else, there's Social Security. Is it going to be around? Is it going to be funded? They say by 2033, it's not going to be funded. Mm-hmm. They say that, some of the stock market's inflated. When you buy in the stock market, you're just buying a share of mm-hmm. a company, right? You're just part of this big behemoth, mm-hmm. and you're a small cog. The gold and silver you own is yours. So you're buying insurance, you're buying that safety, you're buying all the things that you need in today's world, this debt-ridden and laden world. You're buying something that doesn't have it. And I think that is truly important. I'm not saying that you shouldn't own other things, because I do. I own other things too, and I believe in other things too. But in this economy, if you don't have gold and silver, you can't go through the waves. And the people that have bought, based on your recommendation 4 years ago, based on my recommendation 4 or 5 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, they're all able right now to go, okay, the roof's not working. I can sell a little bit if I need it. And I've kept up with inflation. I've kept up with the increase in cost of labor. I've kept up with the cost of food. Like I can afford things today. And so it's just a part of the pie, and it's important. It's important to have that thing that can withstand the ups and downs and protect you. And I think that's what it does.
And one thing that I said to the bank when the bank questioned me about taking money out, and who asked me if I would like to speak to their financial advisor, and I said, with respect, the bank prints money at will, and you still can't balance your books. Why would I take your advice? Whereas gold and silver, I don't know about you, but back in the 50s and 60s, everyone in the UK used to buy little trinkets of gold to give for birthdays and Christmas.
Yeah.
My wife is Turkish. They still do it. Every year they give each other gold as a gift. Next year it's worth more. How many times do we give presents to people for birthdays and Christmas that next year are worth nothing?
Right. 100%. Yeah, 100%. I say it all the time. It's one of the things I really preach to grandparents. I say, don't buy them any more of this junk. Buy them a little gold. Buy them a little silver. I have 3 kids, and they all know what they own. They have their own separate gold and silver. And I always tell people, like, my kids have a net worth. My kids have a legitimate net worth that will continue to grow. And no matter what, when they're 18 years old, each of them are going to have a few $100,000 in gold and silver. Yeah. And they're going to be wealthy, and they're going to remember that this is real. This is real, tangible wealth. Yeah. And that's, and I'm not saying that number because I'm like trying to brag, but I just started when they were young. Like my oldest is 9 and my twins are going to be 7 in a week. Like I started at birth. Yeah. They all got a little bit, and you just add it. And next thing you know, you wake up and they got a real stash, right? They got a real stash. And so, yeah, you can buy them, toys, you can buy them those things, and it's okay, but they're not going to grow. They're not going to be able to keep up with everything that's going on. And so these are it's the little things that people can do. And, people call us and, what amount should I start with? I feel like gold's really expensive right now. Gold, people have told me gold's expensive for 17 years. Yeah. Saying the same thing over and over. I was in commercial real estate. I have a guy recently calls me. His client wants to buy gold and silver. He knows we knew each other from real estate. He's like, I should have bought from you when it was $1,200. I should have bought from 18. I should have bought from when it was 25. And it was like, I know, but every time I talked to you, you would tell me it was too expensive. And then it would just keep breaking all-time highs. And he's like, well, but then I got real estate, and how's that doing? Well, not too good, but it'll bounce back, all this stuff. And it's like, I don't want to think about it's not too good, it'll bounce back. Like, I don't want to, and I think you can get out of that if you do the right things right now. You could protect yourself right now and not say like, well, I should have, or Nvidia, I knew it was expensive, but I never sold it. Like, it's like sometimes those assets have peaked. Sometimes they're done.
You're absolutely right. It's never too late to buy gold. Right now is the best time to buy gold. If you were lucky and got in 4 or 5 years ago, great. But today is the best time to buy gold rather than having it in a bank.
Yeah. 100%. Well, it's funny. There's this crazy supermarket. I don't know if you heard of this phenomenon. There's this place called Erewhon, and the only reason I bring it up is because it's this like phenomenon, and they sell smoothies for, I don't know, $18 or something. And I was talking to, and everyone's like, they're selling smoothies $18. But when you go in there, there's young people, 20, 25, 30, that are buying these smoothies at $18. And they don't seem to be affected because that's their reality. Mm-hmm. And the only reason I bring that up is because people that are buying gold, young people that are making money, mm-hmm. they're seeing gold at 4,000. They're like, gold's valuable. Mm-hmm. I want to own it.
Yeah.
They don't think like, I could have bought it at 2,000. They finally have money right now.
Yeah.
And they're going to buy it at 4,000, and they're going to go, that's a valuable thing. It's very valuable. And so that's the mindset of like, there is people out there that go, I bought it at 4,000 because I know it's going to 20,000. Mm-hmm. And so there's different mindsets of different people. It's valuable right now, and it will continue to be valuable because there's been a cultural shift in the world. Mm-hmm. I mean, Morgan Stanley. So when I started, 17 years ago, Morgan Stanley used to say you should have 1 or 2% in gold. This was 17 years ago. 1 month ago, they said, we're changing our investment allocation. We recommend 60% equities, 20% fixed income, 20% gold. Mm-hmm. At the all-time high, mm-hmm. they recommended 20% mm-hmm. gold. 17 years ago, when it was at $750, they recommended 1%. Mm-hmm. So even with that data, the data that they have, and obviously Morgan Stanley is a data-driven organization, mm-hmm. why are they recommending it? Mm-hmm. Because they see the big money buying it. Mm-hmm. They see the big money buying it. And, another thing that blows my mind, they say about 1 to 2% in the U.S. owns some kind of gold and silver. Mm-hmm. And if the whole country moved and did that 20% allocation that Morgan Stanley is recommending, could you imagine what the price of gold and silver will be?
Yeah.
If we see that, the trillions and trillions of dollars that are in 401ks, IRAs, if we see them go from 1 to 2% to 5%,
yeah,
the amount of, and these are, when people buy stuff in a 401k, they hold that stuff. They're not selling it.
Sure.
That shift, that cultural shift would put a profound amount of pressure on the price of gold and silver, like something we've never seen.
Sure.
The Western market's really still catching up to gold. As you mentioned, your wife, Europe, India, I mean, they know, they still continue to give gold. They see the value of those gifts. We're still catching up. We're still buying, like Rolexes and things that we think are valuable, or sneakers, or, mm-hmm. this other BS mm-hmm. that people are buying. The world knows that mm-hmm. gold is a good place. So it is a good time. I think that people are waking up to it. It's exciting. I'm having people from all different walks of life, from every side of the aisle. It used to be more conservatives buying gold, but now it's not. It's everybody. So I think it's a pretty exciting time. And we really, at Noble Gold, we really are focused on education. We send a lot of good information to people, free guides, helpful, friendly. And I'm a family person. I have 3 kids, I'm married. Like, it's important to me that people are happy and satisfied. And you read our reviews, you'll see, like, making sure the experience is great, that we do what we say, that we ship fast. These are all things that I focus on every single day. And then, the last thing I would say that's really great is we sell basically 10 to 15 items. They're all bullion. We don't sell all these crazy numismatic coins with these huge markups. It's bullion. You're buying what the banks buy. The central banks and the institutional banks. And during COVID, we talked about it a little bit. I didn't get a chance to mention, but I was competing with COMEX on mm-hmm. 1,000-ounce silver bars in mm-hmm. 2020 and 2021. I was buying from the same places. And those are and the reason is because that's a good buy. That's a good buy for a client. Mm-hmm. You could buy a 1,000-ounce bar. You're getting so much value, so much bang for your buck. those are the things that I focus on, because I know when things go up, like now, a lot of my clients are selling those 1,000-ounce bars because silver broke 50. They're in the most unbelievable profit position because they bought a bar and they didn't buy some polar bear or some silly coin. So I got them into the right thing at the right time, and then when they want to sell, they can get out at the right time. So that is a big thing for me too, is like we really focus on the bars and coins that are going to get you the most bang for your buck and that have the lowest premium possible.
And one thing I would say, if you click on the link down below, it'll take you straight to Noble Gold. And Colin has a team of people there waiting to hear from you. And what they will do is advise you, whether it's an IRA or whether it's physical gold that you want to buy, whatever you want to do. They will guide you through the process. They will talk to you. I've spoken to his team already. So click on the link down below. And today's the day that you need to start looking after your wealth. And if you don't do it, somebody else will. And you'll end up in the place that you don't want to be.
That's 100% right. That's what I always say about investing. Like, when you realize, like, I got to be in charge, like, the great thing, you're like, I'm the boss, but the bad side is you're also the boss. Like, you have to take it upon yourself, and you're your own captain. But I think once you do it, once you take your own investment and you realize, like, nobody's in it, like, I got to take control of this and it's my responsibility. Once you realize that, then things get easier.
Sure.
And it's a big shift, because 30, 40 years ago, everybody gave their money to a financial advisor and they just let it ride, and they did okay. But in today's environment, you can't, because they got their own agenda, and you got to figure out what's best for you and your family. And that's really what we focus on.
Well, thank you very much, Colin. Great to see you.
Thank you.
Noble Gold. Real assets, real value. Your wealth protected.